You mentioned that what has happened in Gaza is not Israel's war, is NATO's war. What's your point in that?
Well, Trump told Fox News last night, quote, "The important thing is for people to love Israel again. I told Bibi that Israel cannot fight against the whole world." And Netanyahu's been saying that this war goes far beyond simply between Gaza and Israel. It's really a fight in a ninth front, and that ninth front is controlled. Is who is going to control how Americans view international relations and the geopolitics of what's happening? And I think if the military confrontation stopped at least temporarily, then all of this conflict is now shifted to the political and the cultural battlefield. And I think we have to look at that. This is turning out to be a much deeper and long-lasting conflict, and it goes beyond Palestine and Israel. I think, to answer your question, the war in Gaza and the West Bank isn't simply a military conflict between Israel and the Palestinians, just like Russia isn't simply in a military conflict with Ukraine. The Palestinians are not in a war with Israel, but with NATO, led by the United States and Britain and Germany. And Israel's strategy is, well, how do we keep the loyalty of the U.S. now that the opinion polls show that younger people are taking the side of the Palestinians, not Israel? What does that bode for continued American support over for Israel? Well, this is a much longer lasting fight, and it goes beyond the military battlefield, and it's how the world frames the thinking about what's happening to it. And this is the deepest, and it's even the most threatening battlefield over control of the narrative of how to frame the issue, and what's being taught in the schools and the universities and spread to the internet platforms and the mass media that is now already come under the control of extremist Zionist hardliners. And that's what the whole fight over the last week has been over TikTok. President Netanyahu has explained that Israel's at war with what he calls this ninth front to control the United States. That's the real war that's happening. And this control isn't to be established militarily, but by controlling the U.S. public opinion through essentially extremist Zionist billionaires who control the Silicon Valley billionaires, who control the mass media. You've seen them take control of automatic intelligence to buy out TikTok and redesign the algorithms of TikTok to replace the pictures that TikTok was showing about murdered Palestinian babies, all sorts of horrendous genocidal attacks. All this is going to be out, and the new algorithm is blocking any discussion or any expose of what Israel has been doing to Gaza and to the West Bank. And just like Israel has concentrated, the army is concentrated on killing two groups of people: journalists. They must destroy any attempt to let the world know what they're doing. And doctors. The doctors must not heal the injured, especially the children who can grow up growing up with a memory of what's happening to them. And Israel says, if these children live, it is a threat to Judaism, because Israel is a Judaic state, meaning, as Alistair Crook says, meaning a theocracy, and a theocracy has no room for anyone who is not a member of the Judaic state. So you're having this war extending to the churches. What are the churches going to say? Are they going to say this war of Israel against the Palestinians was part of the Bible, of the Lord backing Israel as America's ambassador to Israel has claimed that he has to follow the Bible. There's a whole attempt to create this not only a false narrative, but by using the algorithms for all the main internet platforms, Facebook, Google, even X. If you try to use these platforms, and you can now expurgate or censor any discussion that is not reflecting an Israeli opinion, then you're shaping public opinion. And if you can take over the news, like CBS News was just taken over by an ardent Zionist, you're turning the universities who are preventing any student demonstrations in favor of peace. They say, if you want peace and not fighting, then you're anti-Semitic. We are expelling you. And if you're a professor who describes this, we will expel you, as Columbia University has done, other universities are doing. This is a cultural war, and that's what is being overshadowed by all of this military discussion. And since neither Richard nor I are military specialists, I think that's really what needs to be discussed on your site, because you have enough military people who are explaining the brutality of what's happening.
You're muted.
Richard, you come from a different angle, but you have your point. We talked about it before. Go ahead, your take.
Yes. Let me frame it slightly differently, but I think in a way that is complementary to what Michael has just said. Here's my interpretation of what a translation should be better word, a translation of what Trump said on Fox News that Michael cited. Here's my translation. This is not what the president said, but here's what I think lies behind the words he said. That he has come to the conclusion with his advisors that the tide has changed in the world, that Israel is now losing the Hearts and Minds campaign that it launched, and that it did in that area too little and too late, and that it could not overwhelm what the reality was of what they were doing to the Palestinians in Gaza for the last 2 years. Okay, and it's too late. Whether you want to give the credit to the global critical media, whether we pin another medal on Greta Thunberg, I don't know, but he's losing, and I don't think President Trump cares about it anyway. But what his advisors have told him is that the tide is turning inside the United States. It is becoming politically impossible for him to continue the policies of Biden and Trump of being 100% pro-Israel. More than half the people of Israel are in terms of the war policy. It's becoming dangerous. AIPAC, for all the money it spends and all the influence it has not prevailed. And he is telling Bibi, listen, Jack, I can't keep supporting you if in my country the opinion is shifting away from you. I've done as much as I can do. I'm bailing. You've got to now do, and then he says something which is ridiculous. You've got to make the world love you. Well, I know what he means. He means that AIPAC has to do something to change the direction of American political opinion. And there again, I would remind everyone, we are now a very few weeks away from an election which the polls suggest is going to bring an anti-Israeli Muslim socialist into being the mayor of the largest city in the country. This is an extremely powerful message being sent. Even if he were to lose the election, it doesn't look like that. But even if he were, look how far he has already come. And from, if you follow it, which I've been doing from the beginning of his effort, long before he became well known, one of his key supporters was an organization called the Jewish Voice for Peace, which is a pro-Palestinian, anti-Israeli war Jewish organization in the city that has more Jews than any other in the United States. I mean, wow, what? And I think they're learning, and they're very worried. Marjorie Taylor Greene has announced she's voting with the Democrats because she can't go along with the policy of undercutting Medicaid for poor people. Mr. Massey is relentlessly trying to get the Epstein files opened up. There's serious speculation that the real reason they kept they shut the government down had nothing to do with Medicare or anything else. It had to do with postponing the denouement of the Epstein files. Okay, I don't know whether these things are true or not, but if you put them all together, they suggest that Michael is right, that there's a turning point here, that this issue, even the Israelis and the Americans now understand that the military action in Gaza has to stop because it's counterproductive. It is damaging. The whole point was to give them more security. And as the critics have told them for years now, that's not going to work. You're making your situation more difficult. And you're seeing around the world, even among comedian Jon Stewart, explaining to his audience that Netanyahu is the one threatening a global wave of anti-Semitism. What did he mean? Because of what you're doing in Gaza, you crazy people. You are, in the name of preserving yourself, you're killing yourself. And that allows me to say, and bear with me, nothing is more typical of declining empires than having their leaders do things which everyone shouts at them, don't do that. That makes your decline worse. But they can't hear it. They're stuck in these ways of doing things. And I don't know whether Netanyahu can either hear any of this, but that's my suspicion. Mr. Trump is realizing he's going to have to choose. It's very clear who's going to be sacrificed. You know, the Germans did a Holocaust. They did a genocide. And they are suffering to this day with the reputation they have around the world for that. How it's all played out in a million people's minds. You know, you don't undo this quickly. You know, Hitler is dead in 1945. Here we are 80 years later, and we can still see Germany inside the European Union. I mean, my family is part French and part German. I have lived the lifelong effects of all of this all my life. Even though I'm born in the United States, I'm an American and all of that, I'm fully aware that that is alive and well in 1,000 ways. Israel will take a very long time, if ever, to crawl out from under what it has done.
Right.
And Mr. Trump is now telling them, you're going to lose me too, because I'm not going to sacrifice my political life because AIPAC is not able to buy and control the narrative the way Michael laid out It used to. It was very good at it. We all admired in our way how it did it, but we all knew, if you think about it, it wouldn't last forever. Well, ironically, the most aggressive effort to hold on to it, the Gaza destruction, is also the end of it.